Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today we have two very special guests. We have writer and star Dana Abraham and director Rouzbeh Heydari from the movie Neon Lights that is premiering today. That is July 12th, today on digital and on demand. So, guys, welcome to the show. How are you both doing?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for having us today.
Uh,
Thank you so much for having us.
it's my pleasure. And like I told you just before we went live, this movie is phenomenal. I loved it. Several of my team members they saw it twice, just to really get the grasp of it. And I think people are going to find themselves seeing this more than one time. So let's get right to it. Now, Dana, you wrote the script and you're the leading star. You play Clay. Was it difficult for you to keep your priorities clear, having to wear so many different hats for this project?
Oh, well, I mean, how much time do you got for me to explain that?
Go for it.
No, you know what? It's extremely challenging. Then you couple in the factors of that we were filming during the height of the second wave of the pandemic. But I have such a great team. Bruce Bay is so brilliant when it comes to manning the creative aspects of this film. So that's what you get to see.
Hmm.
And he's just my creative partner. And from the inception of the script and how we were able to distill it and make it really efficient and work within the requirements of, making sure the risks were limited during the second wave. We were able to execute pretty properly, and I was able to manage my expectation and priorities seamlessly throughout, as much as I could. Anyway, as they say, it's never easy, so
No,
you just got to get through it.
absolutely. Now, Roos Bay, first of all, how long have you and Dana known each other? And were you on board with this film when the writing started? Or did you have to be convinced to be brought on board and direct this?
Well, I've known Dana just since the beginning of this pandemic, but it feels
Okay.
like I've known him for 100 lifetimes, which is kind of special. Um, when we met, we needed to make a film together. We were just, so gung ho about working together and really wanted to push that. And Dana had the makings of a script already called Neon Lights, and then I brought a bunch of ideas out of left field, and he tried to make sense out of them, including his own creative genius, and the script was born.
Now, Dana, like we talked about, this is a very complicated film that has a lot of different layers. When you were writing the screenplay, what would you say was some of the biggest challenges that you were faced with?
Well, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. First and foremost, I think the biggest issue that we had was how do we make a movie during the pandemic,
Hmm.
because we had to be very mindful of casting choices. We had to be very mindful of how to make a psychological thriller with such severe limitations. And so my original script for Neon Lights, it was a really large show. It's something that we couldn't have accomplished during the pandemic period. So, we had to just figure out solutions to every issue.
Hmm.
So when it came down to cast, we had to figure out ways to utilize the limited cast in a way in which we could tell a story. That led to complications. But the one thing that Ruse and I really agreed upon was that we didn't want to make it a lukewarm or an easy to watch film. The theme of it is mental health. And the theme of it continuously happens to be financial familial failure, childhood trauma, all of those situations and the thematic issues were really relevant at the time.
Oh yeah.
And so to make a movie of that nature in and of itself is going to be complicated. And we know that we both agreed that if people didn't appreciate it, it's because they might have not gotten the idea of what's actually happening. It's a very cerebral thriller,
Hmm.
but at the same time, we wanted them to rewatch it, almost like a Christopher Nolan Inception type of thing. You just have to kind of watch it, let it marinate, go back to it.
Exactly.
And that's where we really wanted to live with this film. And I'm just so proud of my partner here, Ruse. He crushed the days, never went into overtime. We did it, safely. Nobody got COVID on set, and we're just really proud of this film. And that's all I really have to say on that.
Now, Roos
And
Bay, I gotta ask you, when you saw the script, when the story, you guys both helped in with the story. Did you find yourself asking, how am I going to present such a complicated story, a complicated script to the viewers where it leaves them guessing, wanting to come back again for some more, but yet accurately and properly tell the story?
Yeah, well, when you're telling a story that central theme is mental health and sort of the breaking down of mental health, you don't want to be exploitative about it.
Yeah.
So I did my, I did my research. We reached out to therapists and practitioners at the University of Toronto, even, and people I've worked with in my life, and really tried to digest the feel and the essence of it as truthfully as possible. And when you're going through those motions that Clay is, the dots don't always connect, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part of this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is what Clay is going through, and how do you embody that now visually? And the neon lights for us, for me especially, the different colors that were character traits. When you look at someone, when you use someone, it is essentially your projection of them is what you're seeing. It's what I mean. So
Yeah.
Clay is essentially projecting, and the different colors represent different characteristics and traits, memories, and whatnot. So
Absolutely.
uh, a lot of prep went into it. We spent a long time preparing just to how to attack it, and then we shot it in 15 days. So we just really had to do the preps to be able to cohesively shoot it in that amount
Now,
of time.
the movie has a very dark feel to it, with sort of like the bright lights behind it, but where the characters are placed, it's a very dark setting. Rouzbeh, was that part of the plan? Did you and Dana work together to work up the lighting to have that effect? Walk us through that.
Well, when you look at something visual, um, it's the contrast that makes it. The contrast in the tones, the contrast in the colors, and the light temperatures. That's what makes an image pop.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of it, I do have to, credit Dmitry Lopatin, our amazing cinematographer, who tirelessly, him and I would go to that location so often before we even started shooting, and he was just trying to wrap his head on how, because I was like, these are the colors, these are the characters, this is what they have to embody.
Mm-hmm.
So he really dedicated himself in trying to figure out how to light these rooms, um, so that it would work and it doesn't look off or jarring, but that it just kind of becomes part of the house, and it's as if the house is kind of bleeding all these traits and colors and feels, right? Like we kind of wanted to give it that kind of a vibe, like the house is just infused and
It,
that's
de-
the blood of the house.
it definitely worked. Dana, would you say the lighting that Rouzbeh was just talking about is sort of like a peek inside Clay's mind as well?
For sure. Actually, that I would credit that heavily to Ruse, because when I had originally written it, it's because I was going through the state of New York and I stumbled into this really small town that was really ominous. That's where I got the idea for neon lights. But the neon lights came from because I was walking through a carnival and they had all these neon lights going
Wow.
on. Rouzbeh, because he's so cerebral, he's such an intellect, he wanted to use color association with the mental psyche and how certain colors are dependent on mood, personality traits, and vision. So I'm gonna let him finish this part, because when I had met him and we are talking about this project, he had right away leaned into Edgar Allan Poe,
Mm-hmm.
and he had leaned into The Mask of the Red Death. Now I wasn't well versed in Edgar Allan Poe at that specific time, so I didn't really understand what he was getting at. And it wasn't until after we finished Neon Lights that I read the book and then understood it. But he had also this idea of what each of the floors in the building were for the mind. And so really it just comes down to Ruse's execution and his belief on what made more sense. And, that's why the film is so cerebral because the
Yes.
script was actually a little bit less complex, but that Ruse is just so great at making you think. He didn't want you to just know what was going to happen. He wanted you to think about what was going to happen to keep you engaged.
Yeah.
We had two premieres, one in my hometown, Hamilton, over 600 people. And, I stood all the way in the back because I was really scared. And nobody was on their phones because you couldn't be, because you had to be engaged. And I'm sure you can attest to that.
Oh
And
yeah.
that goes to Rouzbeh's ability to keep you focused.
And
So I'll let
engaged.
you finish, Rouzbeh, the three floors. Can you explain that? Because I don't
Yeah,
want to mess this up for you.
I mean, the three levels of your psyche, the superego, the ego, the id.
Mm-hmm.
And, we sort of, even down to the shooting style, the way that the images were captured, technically were different on each of the floors. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
you pay attention, and again, Dana attributes that to me, but I can attribute all of that to Alfred Hitchcock. Right? I mean, when you see his films, that he does that, within the locations and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, call it overthinking, but I just get engaged with the words that were on the page and try to bring them to life in my own way.
Absolutely. Now, Dana, what would you say was the inspiration, the foundation for Neon Lights? Was it just to tackle mental illness? Was it a little bit more than that? What was it?
In about 2018, I made a short film that really gave me an opportunity to then go make features and be put in the rooms to pitch. It was called Prisoner Fear, and it was about mental health. It's something that I've dealt with for a really long time. I know, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he's dealt with for a long time, and it's a day-to-day battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're trying to navigate through so much rough terrain, and we're inundated with information and just media and so many different things that doesn't actually help, but actually just inflames those issues. And so for us, when the pandemic had started, I really hit a low point in March because I had just finished Maternal, our first film at Red Hill Entertainment, my production company, and all of a sudden everything just stopped. And I was feeling the pressures of society just like everybody else. And
Yeah.
and so Neon Lights, I really, really leaned into mental health as much as I could because, at the end of the day, we wanted to tell a story and send a message.
Mm-hmm.
But then we masked it with a thriller in order to entertain our audience the best that we can. So that way, you get the best bang for your buck.
I can
But it,
personally relate, and let me tell you why. The reason why I started doing this show is because I was in a severe state of OCD,
mm,
which is
mm,
anxiety.
mm,
And seeing a doctor only brought me back 60% of the way, and I needed to find a purpose and a meaning, and I started doing this show. And this brought
wow.
me all the way back. And mental illness is not something that goes away. It's something you have to learn how to control.
And and,
Amen.
and
Absolutely.
sorry to cut you off, but I think we say that in the film too, that the healing never ends. Like, I don't want to give away
Yeah,
but you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
It's like the journey of healing is a day-to-day thing, and it
It's
goes
always
on.
there.
It's always there. It'll
Ab-
never just go away with some, you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Dana,
ocean or
absolutely, I completely agree with you. Dana, now you are the star of the movie as well. Clay, we said that already. Uh, you mentioned earlier the challenges you faced with COVID. Was it always your intention to play Clay, or was it a necessity because of COVID?
To be honest with you, as a performer, I've just really struggled to book a role. I'll just say I'm terrible at auditioning. But I I wrote the film with the intention of playing Clay, but I've written several other films with the intention of playing the lead role. And it's such a difficult and volatile industry to get that opportunity.
Hmm.
As we went into the financial rounds and trying to attach talent and move forward, there's been several times where I had self doubt. One, because I didn't have the level of experience to be able to play such a complex character and to be able to execute. That confidence was wavering.
Hmm.
But it was actually, again, to go back, it's Rouzbeh, because I remember one day specifically I had mentioned to him that somebody's really interested, somebody with a name was really interested in playing this character and would do it at the financial means that we had. And he said, no, like, I won't do this movie if you're not the lead. And then from that point forward, I just stuck with it. And we really started working on that character like mid-July, where I started figuring out what he should look like and how he should behave. And Rouzbeh got me in touch with a psychotherapist, and we really started talking about the minutiae to be able to execute how a schizophrenia works at a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
and not just being, lukewarm with it, and just really pinpointing, targeting those behaviors, because I didn't want to be a comic book character for individuals that do suffer from those illnesses, because
Yeah.
that's just disingenuous and a disservice. So again, it comes back to Ruse. I really couldn't have done it without him. He's my best friend, and we've done another movie since then. We're on a third now, and so I'm just a blessed young man to have had him by my side.
You guys sound like a great team. Rouzbeh, there's a scene in the movie, the family dinner, where you did this beautifully. The camera sort of pans around the whole table as they're sitting down. How was that idea conceived by you? And did you struggle with it? Did you say, "Man, is this really what I want to do?" Walk us through that.
Do you want the dreamy romanticized answer,
I
or do
want
you
the
want
truth.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I was like,
there's
I want
two
to finish up.
truths. There's two truths. There's two truths.
Let's hear
First
it.
of all, the idea came about because of the dialogue in the movie that keeps haunting Clay, right? Round and round and round and round and round and round you go. And I was like, what a better scene to do that round and round visually,
Yeah.
when he's just going around in circles as he has been with the family. But also try shooting a six-hander. Like, it'll take all day.
Yeah.
So you put the thing on a dolly, you put the camera on a dolly, and around you go, and it lets the actors really live in the moment, and we don't have to keep doing like 100 takes from each angle to get the coverage.
It's just
You
one long shot.
Yeah.
Well, we did it a few times, and these guys were so good that, like, literally, I'm like, after 3-4 takes of it, I was like, all right, now maybe just switch a lens for a take. And our first AD had scheduled 7 hours for that scene because it's 11 pages of the script.
Yeah.
And, he was expecting that we shot that in 3 hours, David?
Yeah. But may I add to that? On again, I mean, you're probably like, yo, these guys are bromancing. Like, all they do is talk about each other. But Ruse, no matter how people feel about this film, I want people to understand that I've worked with 2 directors before I got to Rouzbeh. I've done other films under my banner.
Mm-hmm.
And they're phenomenal as well. But Ruse, he would make floor plans and measure out the dimensions, so he knew exactly where that dolly needed to go and what the camera angles would be. He was so efficient and thoughtful with his choices on what he wanted to capture, because he envisioned what the movie should look like from his editing background, that everything was seamless when we shot it. So regardless of how you feel about the film and the complexities and the difficulties of maybe understanding it, the one thing people should take away is this guy came in, shot during the second wave of the pandemic in 15 days because insurance wouldn't allow us to go past that, with a limited crew, limited cast, and he gave you something that's very meaningful.
Absolutely.
And you cannot do that unless you are excellent at what you do. He eats, sleep, breathes directing. I've seen him work. I've never seen anything like it. And at the end of the day, what you see is what he put together. He really worked his tail off for this.
I completely agree. You cannot walk away from watching this film and not notice the imagery, the cinematography that you guys did. Now, Dana, when it came time, you mentioned this earlier, when it came time to play Clay, you mentioned schizophrenia. Did you approach this from the angle that Clay is schizophrenic or suffering from severe childhood trauma?
And that excellent question. So when we wrote this script, we had originally thought, okay, he's schizophrenic. But when we then spoke to the psychotherapist, she said he has elements of schizophrenia, but it actually comes down from his dissociative behavior from his childhood trauma. And that, again, then ties into the coloring, the disassociation from colors, patterns, and his OCD. And I mean, you must understand his behavior because you get it.
Exactly.
And so again, to answer your question carefully, it's that it is about his childhood trauma with elements of schizophrenia because of his dissociative behavior.
Okay. That
and also if I could add to that,
Yeah,
extreme trauma triggers that as well.
the
Yeah.
DID,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now we got to mention Kim Coates as Denver's. He was phenomenal, uh,
Yeah.
and that is going to be. We don't want to give away any spoilers. His character is going to be the biggest question mark when people leave, are done watching this film. Like I said, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm trying to watch my words very carefully. But what did he do? What is real? What is not real? What was just in Clay's head? What actually happened? Any of you guys can answer this. Was that the intent?
I'll take that. I'll
Was
take that.
was that the
Yeah.
intent of the
Yeah.
script and the film?
Well, the goal was to, again, keep you in your seats and questioning everything.
Yeah.
So when it came to Denver, the character that Kim played, whether he's real or in the mind, we didn't want to really give you an answer because our goal was to figure out for yourself what is real and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it becomes an inward reflection of mirroring your own thoughts. Are your thoughts real? Are they projections, or are they a real person that give you those issues that you have? Is it your father? Is it your significant other? Things we were facing in real time during the pandemic when we were locked up in our home, or is it our own thoughts that are giving us the negative, energy, the negative thought
Mm-hmm.
processes? So again, to not give away spoilers, we just wanted the audience to dictate what it is that Denver meant to them.
Okay, that's
And also, perception is everything, right?
Yeah.
If you see it, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the film, Rouzbeh, the film ends with an Edgar Allan Poe quote. Now, Dana said he didn't actually read the book until afterwards, but so I'm assuming that quote was your idea. Is that correct or
Uh,
incorrect?
I mean, we had a few going on there, but I mean, I don't want to give away the quote either because it's a bit of a spoiler. But
Mm-hmm.
that seemed to be just so appropriate, right?
Yeah,
That one.
it
It just
was.
seemed to sum it all up. So
And I gotta
we
tell
went
you,
there.
like, oh, sorry.
And I think that was actually Dana's idea, right? Because after we had finished post on the film is when he started reading Poe. And we had another quote in there, and then he comes up to me, and the film is like, it's cut, it's edited, but we're just like finishing it up, packaging it and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, Ruse, what about this quote instead of the one we
But
have
do you
in
know
there?"
why, Ruse? I said that because he bought himself a sweater and he gifted me a T-shirt, and it was Edgar Allan Poe at the front, and he had the quote on the back. But this was before we went to camera.
Wow.
Originally, I had Aristotle in there, and then because it's a thriller, but it's still very artistic.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
absolutely.
and so I had come to him and I started reading Edgar Allan Poe, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this makes so much more sense, and the shirt makes so much more. Like, this guy's weird. Why is he giving me this shirt? Like it's like really dark, And so the quote was on the back of the shirt. I'm like, Bruce, this is the one, man. We got to put this at the end.
Absolutely. We're pretty much out of time. I want both of you to answer. When people watch this film, we know it's about mental illness, but what is the one takeaway that you hope people get when they watch it? Let's start with Rouzbeh.
Honestly, just to evoke question. That's it. As long as someone watches it and they question something, my job is done.
That's absolutely correct. How about you, Dana?
Life is a day-to-day battle. Just take it one day at a time. You'll be just fine.
Absolutely. Guys, again, the movie is called Neon Light. It's available as of today on digital and video on demand on your platform of choice. Check it out. I suggest instead of renting, you buy it because you're going to probably want to see it at least 2 times to really get everything that you might have missed the first time around. This is an amazing film. Again, congratulations to the both of you. The way you described the COVID conditions, the restrictions, the limited cast and crew, you guys did an amazing job. So again, congratulations. I think the film is going to be a big success. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
No, I'll be back on your show for the next couple of films. I'll see you soon, my brother.
Absolutely.
I love your shirt.
Christine. That's right. That's right. Thank you guys so much. I want to
Thank
thank
you, man.
our live
Cheers.
audience and those of you who will be watching this after we're done with the live. Thank you again to Dana Abraham and Rouzbeh Heydari. The movie again is called Neon Lights. Make sure to check it out. On behalf of Rouzbeh and Dana, guys, stay safe and stay walking. Good night, everybody.